Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Dolphins Brawl. I am your host, Louis Sung, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Chad Ronnebaum. Ron and Dante could not make it today, so it's just the OG guys today, but that's not a bad thing because you and I can hold down the fort just as well as we always have. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing good, Louis. Doing good. Feels like the season's around the corner. The schedule's out. Feels like it's going to happen. The version's not clear yet, but the season in some capacity is going to happen, which is exciting for us starved fans.
No kidding, man. It's like suddenly there's like a light at the end of the tunnel. Even if we have to stay indoors all the time, we at least are going to still be able to watch our football on Sundays and Mondays and whatever.
That's right.
And we're going to actually be able to have some sense of normalcy, and that's incredibly appreciated, especially in these times. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the schedule tonight. We're also going to have some discussions about some players that apparently the Dolphins are somewhat interested in. They're rumored to be interested in. Of course, to be fair, the Dolphins are rumored to be interested in every player that walks the face of the earth. So we'll discuss the merits of all that. And were there any topics on your mind today, Chad?
No, I think we touched base on the two players. I think obviously they're more rumored on one than the other, but there are two, I would say, for this time of year, marquee free agents now that have come available. I think covering the schedule a little bit is always fun. I mean, it is what it is. You never know what's going to happen after a week of injuries and stuff in the NFL.
And I think we are going to have to talk about him for a little while.
As Superman,
and everybody knows who him is as soon as we say it. So
yes,
I'm gonna I don't know about Chad, but I'm calling you out, folks. The cult of Tua is the cultists of Tua.
The cult of Tua.
All right, so we'll discuss that a little bit today, right? Maybe right near the end or something. But first, we're going to go ahead and talk about all the free agents that the Dolphins are rumored to be interested in, because that's what I want to talk about the most. We have Larry Warford, a veteran guard from the New Orleans Saints, who was recently cut as a form of salary cap cutting, and then also Logan Ryan, who the Dolphins have been rumored to be interested in since free agency honestly started. So apparently there are still rumors that the Dolphins are looking at signing him and bringing him on board. And part of me is wondering, honestly, if Logan Ryan is so special, and Chad, maybe you can ring in on this. If Logan Ryan is so special, why has he not been signed up until this point? Like, is it a money thing? Is it a talent thing? I understand that he was a Belichick protege. He's somebody he was really liked in New England. As far as I know, I don't remember, was he in Tennessee and then he went to New England, or was it the other way around? But Either way, if he's so special and he's so widely coveted, then why is it that all this time he still has not found a home? And I get why the Dolphins are connected because of the Flores thing, but if he's all that special, he should have been gone by now.
Yeah, he was drafted by the Patriots, I believe, and was on the Titans, and he's now a free agent. Been a Pro Bowl quality player. Could be a really, really good slot corner. I don't have a good history on what he's like from a locker room personality standpoint. I don't know. The rumors are pretty thick the last day or two that Miami's interested in him. It's heavily reported that the Jets are trying hard to sign him. I don't know that Miami has a desperate need for him at this point after the draft and where they're at with their defensive backfield and bringing in Byron Jones. The Jets need him a lot worse than the Dolphins do, I would say. And so part of me is, with the draft, Flores and Greer, where they were so good at making smoke screens. I almost wonder if this is a little Belichick trick here that I don't know how really interested the Dolphins are, but maybe the Dolphins are showing interest in an effort to make that contract get pretty hefty for the Jets. If the Jets are truly, I do believe the Jets are pursuing him pretty hard because they need him. They need him on their defense much more than the Dolphins do, I think. And so, if you get the Jets to pay him $2 to $3 million more on his contract, that's $2 to $3 million next year that is off the Jets cap that they can't work with in free agency. So that could literally be what's going on. If the Dolphins are truly interested in him, that would be my expectation, is they would be bringing him in to be the slot corner, which, on paper, he probably may be an upgrade over, the rookie or maybe Bobby McCain, if that's who he played some in the slot. But I don't know that he would be a big enough upgrade to justify what the cap hit would be to get him for the Dolphins. I guess risk versus benefit of the amount of cap you give up for him.
I can agree. I can agree with that. Yeah, and like I'm just looking down Logan Ryan's stats. Like 4 interceptions last year, 2018 and 2017 he didn't have any from what I can look at. But New England his rookie year 2013 he had 5, 2014 he had 2, 2015 he had 4. So as a slot corner he definitely does bring something to the table, but this is where I struggle to understand, and this is where your point comes in. The Dolphins don't really need him that much at this point. They've already invested so heavily in the secondary at this point. Like even during the draft, you guys, when we did our mock drafts, all 4 of us, you had always wanted some more young players for Flores to work with, and that was of course on top of all the young players the Dolphins already had to play with, including.
Right.
And so that's like, if you're going to go with a safety, you already have Adrian Colbert, and of course you have McCain, you have Rowe, who are already supposedly penciled in as the starters. There's now Brandon Jones, who they drafted. Colbert is still there. Other players are still available for them to play with. And so if Miami needed a slot corner that badly that they needed to go and sign Logan Ryan, well, if that's the case, then why not just put Bobby back in the slot where he made his money to begin with? And then maybe, if nothing else, by the time his contract is ready to expire, you can maybe even trade him because he's back where he looks his best. And then you can go and bring in another safety or another slot corner the next year and not only save that cap space by trading Bobby, you get an actual draft asset for him. And you can develop Brandon Jones at the same time because you drafted him for that purpose. Because I have a feeling they're going to keep Eric Rowe. So this whole Logan Ryan discussion just kind of feels redundant. And whether you put Bobby in the safety spot or the slot corner spot, Bobby is the one who makes it feel redundant, in my opinion, because we know where he's best. If you need a slot corner, you have a slot corner. You have a potential Pro Bowl slot corner who's just sitting there playing out of position, and you've already drafted a safety to begin with. So I don't see the purpose in signing Logan Ryan and then leaving Bobby there in the safety position where I understand that Flores knows more about defense than I'll ever know, but just looking at it from TV, Bobby did not do well at safety.
It's so hard to judge for me because I don't understand the schemes. One thing Flores does is he runs a lot of complexity in his defensive backs. I would expect Flores knows Logan Ryan very, very well. That's probably who coached him up, since he was drafted when Flores was there. So, I mean, Flores would know better than anybody what his skill set is. This is definitely not something I would look at from a personnel standpoint as a critical need to get him. I would probably view him as somebody that would be upgrade over what we currently have, but that could change, pretty quickly because, is it Igbenogany? Am I saying his name right?
I still don't know for sure. Igbenogany is what I'm going with. And honestly, you know what, Chad? I'd honestly forgotten about him because it's like, again, they have so many corners and safeties now.
Well, he's drafted, he's a first round pick. And so obviously they're pretty high on him. As I mentioned our last show, he looks to me like somebody who has exceptional athleticism. He's fast. He looks like a very aggressive tackler, which is something I think Brian Flores expects out of his defensive backs, not just guys that can cover, but you need to be able to competently come up and tackle. But I also thought he was very raw in man-to-man coverage. He was very grabby. He wasn't very good at getting his head around. So I expect Igbenogany to be a PI guy early on here until Flores and those guys can try to get a chance to work with him. So Logan Ryan could possibly give you maybe a year or two of trying to develop Igbenogany. In terms of Bobby McCain, I took a quick glance at it. I don't believe it'd make any sense to cut Bobby McCain from a salary cap standpoint. And so I don't think there's a scenario where you can say, well, I'd rather have Logan Ryan than Bobby McCain, so we're going to release Bobby McCain and take that money and give it to Logan Ryan. That's not really how it would work with their cap situation. Bobby McCain's one of the last guys now in this secondary, unless you include Xavier Howard, that isn't a Flores guy per se. He's a guy that's over. I agree with you, Lewis. I think he's a very solid cover guy in the slot. maybe the best on our team at covering in the slot. But
Oh, for sure. He's a ball hawk when he gets in that slot corner. He's
he
dangerous
is.
there.
I don't know how he rates on the level of run defender compared to some of these guys. I know Eric Rose, I think, a pretty solid run defender. That's probably why they moved him to safety. And so I think by McCain, they try to limit a little more to be more of a free safety that's, or the safety that's furthest back. And Eric Rowe tends to be the safety they're going to play up a little bit more towards the box because I think he's a better tackler. But that's splitting hairs. It's not like Bob McCain's a liability back there in the secondary compared to what a lot of teams have out there. So the need just isn't there for Logan Ryan. So I again, he would be an upgrade. Absolutely. I don't think you can look at our draft picks as expecting them to be starters this year. They're going to have a learning curve to go through. And, I can see the idea that let's get one more good player into our secondary, but I just don't think it makes sense from a cap standpoint right now for the Dolphins. I think they would be better served to develop their young guys. That's what Flores is good at, and to keep that cap space maybe for next year, or maybe if we have some kind of an injury in camp and we need to pay a veteran to fill a spot.
And the other thing that I'm going to mention is that basically the same thing again. While I wouldn't say Bobby is a liability as a whole in the secondary, again, at safety, I feel like we all watched it, Chad. We were shaking our heads and wondering, oh my God, can we end this safety experiment with Bobby? It's not working. But we know what he's capable of in the slot. Now, again, if you want Logan Ryan that badly, you want your guy, quote unquote, then the only way it makes sense to move on from Bobby is if you're going to trade him for some draft assets, because cutting him has no net value in it whatsoever. And but of all the players that the Dolphins currently have at this point who have any talent whatsoever to spare, the only ones who really are tradable, if you want to go there, if you really want more draft assets for next year, the only ones that you can really trade and maybe get something for are Albert Wilson and Bobby McCain. Those are the only two guys left.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're coming way unexpected out of left field trying to trade Xavier Howard or something like that. I don't think there's anybody that I honestly think Flores likes Bobby McCain, and I don't think he's trying to replace him and all that. And that's why I kind of preface everything with I don't know how credible Miami's interest in Logan Ryan really is, as much as they want to force the Jets to pay him more. And so they're happily being the counteroffer to the Jets right now, trying to run them up, because that's probably scaring the Jets a little bit because they do need him, and they probably don't want him going to the Dolphins. And so that honestly, that might get the Jets to pay more money to him, which is very, very Bill Belichick on trying to make your opponents a little bit weaker, even if it's for next year.
All right, but so here's what I want to throw out there if we're using that mentality. So I don't know if you've ever seen Storage Wars or anything.
Yeah, I've watched.
So you've seen Dave, you've seen Yup, and all that stuff. All right. Yeah, so the problem with that mentality of just kind of raising the stakes and whatever, if the Dolphins don't really need Logan Ryan and they're trying to like up the price on the Jets, if the Jets shake their head and say forget it, then the Dolphins would be in a very bad situation if what they offered Logan Ryan is not what they meant to actually sign him for. It's like crap.
You're looking at like they're standing there at an auction right now, like Storage Wars.
But that's what it almost sounds like. It's like, let's raise the price so the Jets have to pay more to go get
that. I mean, in a sense, that's true, but I think more likely what you would be doing, and this is speculation. Make that clear. Nobody's telling me this stuff, but I would say they're probably telling reporters this information. And if you're Logan Ryan's agent, that's what you want. So if Miami doesn't actually call up Logan Ryan, they're not even talking to him, offering him contracts, but you call up, Adam Beasley, or you call somebody up that's a reporter, and you say, hey, we are really interested in Logan Ryan, and we're making a run at him. And so, boom, now that's being reported out, on Twitter and the media that Miami's really interested in Logan Ryan. And if you're Logan Ryan's agent, you're not going to say, no, they're not. They're not interested, because that's what the agent wants. Is the agent's like, oh, perfect. Yeah, keep pumping that out. Keep pumping that out, because that's going to make the Jets pay my client more money, because that's what he's interested in. And so I think it's more of that kind of a game. I don't think it's Miami's offering him a contract they're not really going to offer him.
But remember, this is the thing. Or the Jets will call the bluff and they'll say, no, that's crap. Or they'll
Well,
say, you know what, forget it.
right.
You Dolphins can have him, and now Logan Ryan has nothing.
Well, at the end of the day, Logan Ryan and his agent are going to make a decision, and so he's going to have an offer, and he's going to decide because we don't know what the offers are. So maybe the Jets are only willing to offer him a 3-year contract or a 2-year contract, and maybe he only wants a 1, or maybe he wants a 4, and he wants more guarantees, and so that kind of stuff is going to be in the in that process, and so. Logan Ryan and his agent, they're probably going to ultimately decide, do we just take the best offer on the table right now, or are we just going to wait until July? Which, when you get to this point, people do that. Like Ndamukong Suh did that, I want to say, when Tampa signed him. He just sat there and waited because, like, Logan Ryan knows he's probably the best available free agent defensive back. So if he just sits and waits, you can get a team that's even more desperate in July or August when a starting corner tears his ACL or something. Now Logan Ryan's your best option to still field, your secondary for the upcoming season. And the chances of a defensive back getting hurt, one of those guys on one of those 32 teams, is pretty high. There's probably going to be one top corner that gets hurt in a preseason game or in camp or something like that. And then Logan Ryan then has a lot of leverage on what he can ask for a team that, especially if it's a team that's trying to make a playoff run right now. Let's say Tampa Bay, they've just paid Tom Brady and brought in Gronk. They're trying to win right now. They're not trying to win 2 years from now. And so if their best corner hurts himself, they're probably going to shell the money out for Logan Ryan right now because they've already put themselves in position to win right now. And so they're going to be more desperate than other teams. And the other question is, does Logan Ryan really want to play for the Jets? I've kind of made the point. Adam Gase has the reputation. He hasn't been a very players-friendly coach. And so Logan Ryan may rather just wait than play for the Jets. That could be a real situation.
That's definitely something to think about. And so now the other free agent, the Dolphins are very interested in. This one is definitely more of a need. However, I feel like it's a need, but it's not at the same time. So the New Orleans Saints, to save some cap space, went ahead and cut their veteran guard, Larry Warford. I believe he's a right guard, very power-heavy, foot-heavy guy who's basically going to stomp on you, not so much beat you with agility and stuff like that. He's a very power-heavy guy, which does seem to be the mold that the Dolphins are building, which, mind you, I have no issues with that whatsoever. I am dying to see what a power-run Dolphins offense can actually look like after all this finesse zone junk that we've been dealing with for the past decade or so that hasn't worked at all. So, but that said, I made the point on Twitter a few days ago that Larry Warford is more of a stopgap, more of a talent. He's an instant upgrade. Don't get me wrong. I fully acknowledge that. I don't think anybody in their right mind will ever say that, oh yeah, don't bother signing him because he's not as good. No, definitely. Without even thinking twice, Larry Warford would instantly be the best guard on the Dolphins offense. No questions asked. But definitely more. I don't trust Eric Flowers, man. I just don't.
No, I understand. I mean, I'm just saying, like, anyway, go ahead, Lewis. Yeah. I mean, everything's valid that you're saying. This is true.
All right. So, yeah. And so Warford would instantly be the best guard on the Dolphins, no time flat. But the problem that I have with it is not about Warford as a player. It's more as Warford as what he represents. Because, again, the Dolphins have brought in all this talent on the offensive line. They drafted Solomon Kinley, who presumably would be the team's starting right guard in time. They brought in Robert Hunt, who, if he doesn't work out at tackle, you can just shift him over to guard, and he's going to start pancaking people. We already know that's going to be pretty much the case, because that's basically what he did all his career in college. He just smashed people to the ground. And you also still have guys like Shaq Calhoun, who did show a little bit of promise, but struggled early in the season. He got a little better as time went on. There may be something to develop there. And, of course, Michael Dieter, who last year, if you move him to center, he still got promise there, hopefully. And you also still had Ted Karras at center now. So I'm thinking to myself, if you're going to sign Larry Warford to a long-term contract, because that's the only thing that would make it worthwhile. If you're only going to sign Warford for 1 year, what's even the point? That's my biggest issue. You either have to sign Warford to a long-term deal because you want to turn him into your franchise right guard, or you just let it sit because in 2021, Tua's coming to play. There is no debate about that. That's the hope. That's the dream. And if you sign Warford for 1 year in 2020, who does that help exactly? Because now you have taken away a whole season for Kinley and Hunt or whoever plays right guard to learn and develop in the fire without any risk of your franchise quarterback actually getting injured because he's not out there. It's Fitzpatrick who's basically being the sacrificial lamb while the offensive line learns how to play football together. So, and this is where my issue comes in. If you're going to sign Warford, it needs to be a long-term contract, not a we'll sign you for 1 year rental and you keep Fitzpatrick on his feet. And then in 2021, we're going to let the rookie that we drafted last year play when now it's desperately important that he actually does well. I would much rather let Kinley or whoever plays that position learn for a year trying to protect Fitzpatrick than throw him into the fire when if you let Tua get hurt, the entire 10 years may be in jeopardy at that point.
I don't disagree with you, Lewis. I think he absolutely is a really solid Pro Bowl level guard. I want to say he's 29, and so
28, 29. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. So I would say most likely both he and his agent are only going to be willing to sign a longer term deal. He's probably wanting something like Eric Flowers got, like a 3-year, $30 million deal.
Reports are saying that he wants around $7 million a year, which again, that's really not bad.
I doubt though he's going to be willing to play for $7 million for 1 year. He's probably wanting $7 million, like with a guaranteed power up front and stuff like that. I would if I were him, and he'll probably get that. I mean, again, he's a marquee level player that's available late in the process. I agree with you. I don't think he makes a lot of sense for the Dolphins. I think. We were talking earlier. I was telling you Solomon Kinley was around the 4th or 5th rated guard in the draft, and Robert Hunt was usually around the 2nd or 3rd rated guard in this draft. And so I think I don't want to sleep on Solomon Kinley. He could absolutely be a very good guard as well. We have Eric Flowers in there, and you have a lot of things you need to figure out this year. If you're the Dolphins, you need to decide, what do we have in Robert Hunt? What do we have in Solomon Kinley? What do we have in Michael Dieter? Is Eric Flowers a 1 year wonder or not? And so with all those question marks and those all being, in my opinion, guards, I don't know that paying a lot of money at a position like guard would make a lot of sense for the Dolphins. And so I think what Miami really needs is tackles. And right now, that's the issue. And, you and me were kind of talking before. I don't believe Robert Hunt has the skill set to be a tackle. I think he's going to be better served being a guard. And so knowing that, putting that money into Warford right now doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I would rather either maybe this may not be a popular opinion. I think it'd make more sense to put it in somebody like a 1 year contract to Jason Peters. So we have another veteran tackle, or you just keep that money to pay a veteran tackle next year. I don't see how getting Wolford's going to help our team change a lot of our fortune this year. And that is a pretty classic example of a progress stopper for all the young players we have for guard right now.
And just for the record, the Dolphins do have Robert Hunt listed as a tackle, so it does seem likely they're going to try him there first. But even then, the guards that the Dolphins do have on the roster already, it does include Dieter, it does include Kinley, Shaq Calhoun is on there too. There's also Danny Isadora, who's still on the roster, so they're keeping him around for something. And
I don't know. I'm not too. I mean, I know for being. Shaq Calhoun was undrafted, right, last year?
Correct. Yes.
I want to say so. For an undrafted guy, I mean, he did all right. I don't know that he'll.
He wasn't good. I'll say that. He wasn't.
I don't know if he'll be able to make this team or not. But one thing I think we both agree on, Lewis, was I think ideally we would like to see Jesse Davis by this time next year be our 6th lineman, who's either our number 1 backup guard or our number 1 backup tackle.
Yes.
And I think that's ideally you're looking at. You're going to have some development in Austin Jackson. He's only 20. He struggled at times in college, so they're going to have to work with Austin Jackson. I like his ceiling, but this isn't a guy who's going to be a dominant left tackle on opening day. He's going to need some work. Robert Hunt's going to need some work. He played at a small college, and so there's a lot of coaching that needs to go into this offensive line right now. And so I think the best way for them to get that is going to be to play. And you're absolutely right. This is all about 2021 right now with Tua, and we want a good line in 2021. And the best way to do that is to get these guys reps.
And this is the other point that needs to be made, and I feel like some people are missing this point. And mind you, I bring this up only because people hounded me over this. It's like, how can you possibly say this would hurt the Dolphins? It doesn't. Let me clarify my position again. It doesn't hurt the Dolphins to sign Larry Warford if you are saying he is your franchise right guard. You want to do that? Fine, whatever. Because he could definitely do it. So you sign him for 4 years, he's the guy. Fine.
Yeah, it starts to not make sense though. I mean, if you do that, then you use those draft assets on, you use a second round pick on Hunt, and they trade
for depth,
it up.
I guess.
Well, yeah, we'd have a better depth this year at the guard position, but in a way, it does hurt your team because the amount of money he would cost could be a much higher position of need next year, or even this year if we have to sign somebody with a training camp injury. So, what happens if Logan Ryan doesn't sign with anybody, and then the first day of camp, Xavier Howard gets knocked out for the year or something like that?
Then you throw Nick Needham back out there. Honestly, I wouldn't sign anybody.
Well, maybe, but that changes the dynamics do you want, Robert Hunt sitting on the bench and Nick Needham playing for Xavier Howard, or would you rather then go grab Logan Ryan and have that money available in reserve in case somebody gets hurt? So, yeah. Anyway, I think we're both saying the same thing. I think if he were 24 or 25, I might be a little more interested, but I think he's 29. Even if he's 28, 29, we haven't done very well with getting players into their 30s. I would rather focus on the younger players.
Okay, so as of June 18th, he will be 29 years old. So he will play 29 in the 2020 season. He'll turn 30 next year.
So pouring a bunch of money into a guard turning 30 isn't, to me, what this team is trying to do right now. Like I said, I think we'd be better served since Austin Jackson's 20 and Jesse Davis is our right tackle, or if they're going to try Robert Hunt, he's going to be very inexperienced. So to me, I would rather try to sign Jason Peters for like $2-3 million a year if he'd do that, to come in and be a veteran tackle presence for us. We'd be further ahead in signing a guard.
I can agree with that, and this is the point that I'm going to make, that I was going to end the Larry Warford discussion on. In 2021, let's not act like there aren't a bunch of guards that are going to be available again. Because remember, Brandon Scherf.
Hopefully we won't need them.
Hopefully we won't need them, but that's just it. If we determine that we do, Brandon Scherf got franchise tagged. Joe Tooney got franchise tagged.
Right.
So that means those are 1-year deals, and come next season, they're going to be available again. So.
Yeah, dude. And I personally think we have our guards. We're set. I like our young guards that we drafted. I'd like to see them develop. And I think this time next year, they're going to be more worried about getting another tackle. That's what I think is going to be the concern, not the guard position.
And that's the whole point, is that 2021 is going to be a whole different free agent class where there will be marquee players available. It's not like we're going to get a bunch of scrubs coming loose. There are always players that are like, ooh, that's the best guy in the market.
Oh, no. And again, we have a lot of draft assets next year again. So, I mean, we're going to have the ability, if we want to draft a tackle high, we'll be able to do that. So.
Isn't there one, like, if let's say a tackle, isn't there like one guy who supposedly is already being hyped up as the best tackle prospect to come out in the past decade or so?
I never worry about it because those things change so much in one college season.
True enough.
Somebody gets hurt or has a bad year, and I worry about that after the college season.
Which hopefully there will be one. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But in any case, so Warford, I'm not against, but I'm not for, if that makes sense. I'm neutral on the whole idea.
I don't think either player makes a lot of sense for the Dolphins based on the personnel they have on their team right now, but both players are quality players from their history, and I wouldn't be like upset to bring in a quality player, but a lot of it, I mean, if we gave a huge contract out, I think that'd be not the best move, but we'll see. But, if they sign a really affordable 1-year deal just to play for the Dolphins, of course, we'll take them.
Because isn't that how it works? It's like they play they do 1 year, they do really well, and then they end up leaving, and we get a comp pick for it.
Sometimes I think it depends on when you get these players that are 28, 29. player's value can start to decline then. So a lot of times, if you're in your late 20s, what you're wanting is a 3 to 4 year deal that locks you into your early 30s, so you don't kind of get. The teams prefer youth, and so if you're in the free agency market and there's a player available that's 24, 25 going for a second contract, and you're 28, 29, 30, they're going to prefer the younger player.
Well, to be fair, Kyle Van Noy is 29 and he just signed a 4-year deal, so.
In the beginning of free agency, yeah, he did.
Yeah, so.
But so like I said, it's supply and demand. So, I guess both these players aren't bad. There isn't a huge need, I don't think, on the team for them.
All right. And finally, we'll talk a little bit about the schedule that came out for the Dolphins. So it turns out that the Dolphins are actually going to start out in September paying the Patriots first off the bat. It's like, so how about that? Tom Brady leaves, and all of a sudden, Dolphins-Patriots is week 1 fodder.
Yeah, it's kind of fun because I think there's going to be a little bit of pressure on the Patriots for that game. Because, it's still, I think, sitting in their psyche that their coach Flores, came to Miami and he came in and now he messed up their season. They were supposed to have a second round bye. We took that away from him, and then they lost in the playoffs in the wild card game that they shouldn't have had to play. So I mean, I'm sure that left a bit of a bad taste in your mouth. And so what the Patriots don't want is to have Miami come into Foxborough again and beat them again. That's something that I think the pressure is going to be more on the Patriots, which I like because you're going to have a fan base who's very impatient. This is a fan base that's used to having one of the best quarterbacks in the league for the last 20 years. And now you're going to have a pretty inexperienced quarterback. I know he was on the team for last year, but this is not a quarterback who's taken a lot of snaps going against a defensive coordinator who's very good at confusing quarterbacks in Flores. I like it because I think you can actually. Well, granted, there's probably a good chance there will not be fans at the game, so that's going to be a different dynamic. But I think the fact is that these fans wouldn't shock me if they were booing him in the first game if he throws a couple interceptions. Like, I think they're going to be extremely intolerant to any quarterback comes in there when they're used to Brady. They're going to be all over him. So I think I like getting him early. The less games he's played, the better.
Type F in the chat for Jarrett Stidham because he's gonna die.
Jarrett Stidham, he's not a terrible prospect, but unless he just lights it up right away, it's going to be tough at sledding for him. That
first game is gonna be tough sledding. Period. Like your first game as the starter for the New England Patriots, the heir to Tom Brady. And you have to go up against your former teammate Kyle Van Noy. You have to go against Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, who are both 2 of the top corners in the NFL. You have to play against Eric Rowe, who knows how you function because he was in New England with you too. And
I've been saying this for a few weeks. So this defense is going to be good. I think Flores is an exceptional defensive coordinator, and he's got his pieces now. He's got the linebackers and D-backs he needs to play the types of defenses he likes. He rebuilt that defensive line. This is not going to be an easy defense to play against. And so I'm pretty excited. Young quarterbacks are going to struggle against this defense without a doubt.
Because and the biggest part of it is so this is where Jarrett Stidham has to think about it. What is more dangerous to him? Because with Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, if you really think about it, they're 2 different players. Byron Jones is the top-notch cover guy who's going to smother your top wide receiver if that's what the Dolphins want to do. Or you have Xavier Howard, who knows how to basically turn around and suddenly turn into a wide receiver, and he's going to pick you off before you even blinked. He may not cover as well, but he's definitely more dangerous.
I think what you'll probably get, which will be tough for him, will be you'll see Flores using a lot of defensive backs who you're not sure doing what. And so you're going to have Xavier Howard out there. You'll have Byron Jones out there, Bob McCain, Eric Rowe, maybe Igbenogany, maybe Nick Needham. But there's going to be a lot of defensive backs on the field, and you don't quite know, especially when he does that amoeba stuff where everybody's standing up, moving around, and you have no idea who's my linebackers, who's my D-backs. And now if you're the Patriots, you got to be really careful because they're going to be able to man Xavier Howard up, Byron Jones up man-to-man on some players. And so you're going to have to be really careful, because if you're throwing down the deep center of the field, if they've dropped their safeties and you've got those corners out, you can't really afford to throw inaccurate passes up near Xavier Howard or Byron Jones, or they'll pick it off. And you got to be really careful on understanding those coverages with those guys moving around. And they'll be, if the young quarterback Flores will be blitzing him all over the place. Kyle Van Noy is going to be coming after him, and they'll be blitzing some of his defensive backs. And it will be very difficult and confusing for Stidham. And I think the Patriots know that. They're going to probably try to run the ball as best they can, and they're going to try to rely on which is still a really good defense in New England. That's what they'll be trying to do.
And even then, if that's what they're going to do, then consider what the Dolphins basically did on the defensive side beyond the secondary. Raekwon McMillan is still there. He's a run stuffer. I'm hoping the Dolphins lock him up soon, because even if he's just a role player, he's a very good role player, and those kind of players are very valuable. Then you have, of course, they went and got Raekwon Davis, who's a bit more of a penetrator, more though than a run stuffer, I think.
Oh, I think he's a good fit. Like, you'll have him playing with Gottschalk, Christian Wilkins, and one thing Flores likes to do is he likes to throw in 3 defensive tackles up front and play a lot of D-backs and say, are you going to try to run up the middle on my 3 huge D tackles up in there? Or are you going to try to run the perimeter, where he likes to have very competent tackling D-backs? And so it's tough to run to the edge when you've got guys that are that fast out there and they can tackle. And so it'll be I do not expect the Patriots to be winning games this year with like the Tom Brady scoring, 28, 35 points by the third quarter. And so your defense has it easy because the offense has thrown so many points on the board. These are going to be slugfest with the Patriots trying to rely on play action and running the football, and relying on their defense to keep the points low.
You know who I really want to see? I want to see your 330-pound guy they went and grabbed after the draft was over, Benito Jones.
He'll be around. They'll mix up. But this is, again, our defensive ends are completely rebuilt now. This is no longer 4-3 defensive ends that, our ends are these wide 9 where you need D ends that can beat the tackle around the edge to sack the quarterback. We have edge setters. So it's going to be really, really hard to run against Shaq Lawson and Ogba, and bringing in these guys like Strobridge and Weaver. We've got some good edge setting DNs now. And so I just don't see teams coming in this year compared to last year. They're not going to just run off tackle power football against the Dolphins anymore. They've got a really stout defensive line and a really stout linebacking core now. So that I don't think teams are just going to come in and try to control the game on the ground against this defense.
When was the last time you feel the Dolphins had a defense on paper that looked this formidable? Like, it had to be like early 2000s at the earliest.
Yeah, the best defense the team ever had. No names, the killer bees. By far, in my opinion, the best defense this team had was with Wanstead. That Jimmy left him, and they had multiple Pro Bowlers. You had Surtain and Madison out there, 2 Pro Bowl corners. You had Brock Marion.
Terrell Buckley was around for a while.
Terrell Buckley playing slot, and you had Jason Taylor at DN.
Zach Thomas.
Tim Bowens and Daryl Gardner in the middle, who were both Pro Bowl level D tackles.
Trace Armstrong for a little while.
So that defense was really, really good. But I'm just saying, like, that defense doesn't. That's not how the NFL plays anymore. Now it's all passing, and so the defense you need are how many corners can you get on the field that can cover and tackle both. And to me, Flores has a really good grasp of the current way you play defense in the NFL. So, and again, he's got his guys now, so this should be a good, really good defense.
All right, and after the Patriots, we spent all this time just talking about the Patriots. We got the Buffalo Bills is after that, and to be fair, I think the Bills actually will end up winning the East this year. That's just my personal opinion on the matter.
No, they're solid. Like this is one of the better Bill teams that have been around in a while, most likely. The Buffalo Bills have a solid team, but it's going to really depend on Josh Allen, because right now the problem with Josh Allen is he's got a really good arm and he's really mobile, a big strong guy, but he's a little inconsistent with the football. And kind of as I mentioned earlier, now that we've got Byron Jones, you got to be really careful if you're going to throw up the outside passes on Miami, because both corners can really cover, and they'll change.
And
that
one
changes
is
quickly.
And And that's what I was saying, is that Jones and Howard are like two different, or they're the two sides of the same coin. Howard is the guy who can pick you off without even blinking, and Jones is going to smother you and make it so that even if he doesn't pick it off, which he doesn't really do very much, but he's not going to let you catch the football, like, at all. So
Well,
you have to pick your poison.
You can play a lot of different guys in Florida's defense that can play man. Like Eric Rowe, yeah, he's a safety now, but this was a corner. He can play man to man. He isn't a shutdown corner per se, but you can, run a scheme where I'm going to put Eric Rowe man to man on somebody, or I'm going to put Bobby McCain man to man. Is Bobby McCain a boundary corner? Probably not, but he's played it, and so you can run a defense where, like, I think I'm going to blitz Xavier Howard this play, and what I'm going to do is I'll have Bobby McCain pick up that receiver man to man. Are you going to do it all game? No, but he can do it competent enough to do it on a play and disrupt what that quarterback's ready for. So it's going to be fun. I think in terms of the schedule, something that really stood out to me that's different is it's November 15th. We're going to play
Jets,
the Jets
2 in a row. That was coming up next.
Then we do a bye week and we play the Jets again. So for both teams, you're going to play the same two teams 2 times in a row between a bye week. And so that's going to be big, because if the Dolphins beat the Jets again, because we split with them last year, when we were supposedly the worst team tanking for Tua, we beat Adam Gase's Jets. If we beat them, we go a bye week and we beat them again, that might be Adam Gase's job. No kidding.
I believe it. Do you think he finishes the season, or if after the second time they lose, he's just gone, period?
Well, if they're struggling and we win both those games, that he might be done right there. That would be a hard pill for the Jets ownership to swallow if the Dolphins beat them 2 games in a row.
Without Tua.
Yeah, without Tua. So that it looked to me like that's interesting, because you usually don't get to play the same team 2 times in a row like that. So that's kind of
this isn't baseball. It's not a series.
I thought overall we're not playing a ton of cold weather. It's going to be interesting. We'll get to play the Raiders in Vegas towards the end of the season, so that shouldn't be like a cold game. We do have to go to Buffalo to finish the season, and if we're in the playoff race, that'll be an enormous game, because I do expect Buffalo to at least be in the playoff race. With the talent level they have right now out on the field. So that could be the game for the East right there, that game at Buffalo.
You know what I think, and this is just me spitballing here, later in the season, it feels like the Dolphins will be extremely tempted to throw Tua out there, if nothing else for just the marquee talent, the marquee value alone. Because think about it. Early in the season, you get the Patriots, okay, the Bills, Jaguars, whatever. Seahawks, yeah, we've done that before. 49ers, Broncos, Chargers, Rams. Not a whole lot of hype there. They already kind of, you what you see is what you get. But then you get the Cardinals, and Kyler Murray is still pretty fresh in people's minds. The Jets, whatever. Then you get the Bengals, and that's Joe Burrow, and we know he's going to play.
Well, he'll at that point he'll have Joe Burrow play if he stays healthy. I honestly, Lewis, I don't think Joe Burrow's going to last the season. Like, not because he's struggling. I think he's going to physically get hurt. Like, that division, oh my God, that's probably the most physical division in football. And I mean, you've watched what the Ravens have done to the Dolphins for the last decade. They just beat you into the ground physically.
But that's coming to an end. Just saying. Anyway,
this Ravens team is no joke. They're good. And so I'm just telling you, Joe Burrow's going to get his head kicked in all season in that division. But that's a side note. This schedule, to me, isn't that bad for the Dolphins.
This schedule screams play Tua in December, if you're honest. Bengals, Joe Burrow, Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes.
It's all about how your season's going. What is Tua going to be able to do in during the season in camp? And
make people excited. Tua versus Patrick Mahomes, Tua versus Joe Burrow.
Oh no, I get the hype for it, but what can you do? Because in camp, if I'm have Tua right now, I'm trying to let him play as much reps in practice at speed, and so I'm going to have my linemen understand you do not tackle Tua no matter what, but I want him dropping back, and I want the receivers and D-backs going at game speed all the time, so Tua can process that. And at least try to get a feel for how's he looking in terms of coverages, mental mistakes, and stuff like that. Just because Tua's physically ready doesn't necessarily mean Tua's ready. He's a rookie. You got to keep that in mind. As much as people think he's the obviously next Hall of Fame quarterback, he hasn't played a snap of professional football, so he's got a lot of learning to do yet. So to me, if you're out of the playoff race, like if we're have 4 wins and we're down to the last 4 games or something like that, then it starts to make sense.
Then you might as well lose out and get a high draft pick because we have 2 of them. Hey.
Well, to me though, that might be if you're gonna play 2, you play 2. But just if we're 9 wins, 10 wins, and we're in the playoff race, I don't know that it's gonna be wise to put in Tua, who hasn't played a snap yet as a rookie. It might be better just keep that going with Ryan Fitzpatrick or Josh Rosen, depending on how that season plays out. But
how realistic do you feel like it could be that the Dolphins are in the playoff race?
I think they're going to be, because I'm looking at the schedule, and when I look at it, I don't think the Patriots they're no longer a powerhouse to me. They don't have a lot of skill position weapons. They've got a young quarterback. I just can't see this Patriots team scoring lots of points right now. And so I don't teams that can't score a lot of points have trouble winning consistently.
So you think opening week the Dolphins win that game?
I think the Dolphins are the better team on paper right now. I think the Dolphins have a veteran quarterback. They've got Brian Flores. They've got a really good-looking young defense. Now, I don't think the Dolphins are a powerhouse. I'm pointing out, I don't think the Patriots. I don't look at the schedule and say, oh, we're probably going to lose both those games against the Patriots, or maybe at best get a split. We may sweep the Patriots this year. I just don't think they're a powerhouse. I don't think the Jaguars are a powerhouse. The Seahawks are usually pretty tough, but
Russell Wilson.
They'll be a tough game, but that game is winnable. Broncos are winnable. 49ers are a better team than the Dolphins right now. That's a tough game. Chargers are not a lot better than the Dolphins. Rams, I think, are going to be on the decline now. They have a lot of cap trouble. They've lost a lot of talent.
Can you imagine free agency in 2021 with all those Rams players that are going to have to get cut loose?
Well, it's already started. That's why Gurley's gone. That they're all that's going on. But the Cardinals, that's not a complete team. That's way better than the Dolphins. Jets aren't. Bengals aren't. Chiefs are. And so I look at the schedule, and the only 2 games I see before the season starts that I think are going to be difficult for Miami to win are the Chiefs and 49ers, which obviously are the 2 Super Bowl teams. But those are 2 very good teams. Everybody else in this schedule, Miami's a much better team already than they were last year. And so I look at the Dolphins, I look at the schedule, and I see an 8 to 10 win team right now for the Dolphins. That's what I see.
That's kind of crazy to think about, because 2020, again, it wasn't supposed to be the year, and yet here we are talking that playoffs might actually be. Let's think about this. If already 2020 is playoff possible, and then 2021 you throw in Tua and another high 2 draft picks, and 4 because we have 2 firsts and 2 seconds,
plus 2 6 and 2 7s.
we'll get more as time goes on, I'm sure, but. And that plus another round of free agency where the Dolphins can increase talent even more. And if Tua really is the guy we think he's going to be, Chad, are we talking Super Bowl?
Oh, I don't think you can say you're Super Bowl, but this team should be a very solid team. I think this year already, but next year we should be a playoff team that's got the structure in place to be a winning football team. And that's all you can ask for in the NFL.
So you won't say 2021 is Super Bowl possible?
I wouldn't say that if I was the Chiefs right now that it's 2021 was a Super Bowl team. The Chiefs are a very good team, but the NFL, because of the number of injuries that happen, I think it's so hard to say, oh, this team is the clear Super Bowl favorite. What I want for the Dolphins, I think, which most fans want, is I just want a perennial team that's always in the playoffs or right at the playoffs. And we haven't made the playoffs, 2 or 3 times in the last couple decades. And
2008. And
2013, maybe?
No. It was
second year?
It was Gase's second year, because 2012 was Tannehill's rookie year. So 2008 was the Pennington year.
I don't believe Joe Philbin ever made the playoffs at all.
He did not. No, Philbin did not. And
Sperano made it once with
Pennington.
So and my point is, though, we've had a team that was maybe a wild card team that couldn't win a playoffs. And that's once every 5 years. I want a team that's a contender, and we have not been close to being a contender in 20 years. We really haven't been close to being a contender since Jimmy Johnson was here, in my opinion. So that's the hope right now. I think Miami did a real rebuild. We saw that for the first time that I've ever watched the Dolphins where they actually rebuilt the team. Teams love to use that phrase, we're in a rebuild year. But what
Yes,
does that
that's an
really mean?
excuse for when they screwed up.
Right, but rebuild means you literally almost start over, and most teams don't. They just say, "Oh, we're in a rebuild year, so we're going to switch our quarterback. That's our rebuild."
That's called
Miami,
a repair.
yeah, Miami stripped everything down to the bones and completely rebuilt this team with a lot of young players and draft picks and the guys they want. And so, 2021 will be another year of a lot of young talent joining the team. And if it's going to come down to these draft picks, but if Tua is good, and 2021 is going to be Tua no matter what, unless he gets injured badly. We should be in a position where we don't have to get a quarterback in the 2021 draft, and we may not have a whole bunch of needs like we did this year, and so we could be in a really good position. We may trade and get even more draft picks, and I like where we're at. Whether people think I'm crazy, and I really believe looking at this team and schedule where, like I said, 8 to 10 win team this year, that this team's going to be solid. And partially because I don't think we're in a really good division anymore. I think the Patriots are down now. Buffalo's solid, but Buffalo isn't a team like the Ravens or the Chiefs, in my opinion. I don't think the Jets are as good as the Dolphins, in my opinion. So I think it's a very winnable division. And when you're in a very winnable division, it's a lot easier to make the playoffs. We've been through years of watching teams that were in divisions like the AFC South, where there wasn't, how many years has Jacksonville been god awful, where it was just easy sledding for the Colts to win the division, and the Texans were bad, and you get these bad teams in your division. And meanwhile, in Miami, we're trying to contend with the Patriots, and you're hoping just to try to get in as a wild card for all those years because the Patriots are always 12, 13 win teams. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I think the AFC East now is not that kind of division. And so that alone, a lot of times adds up to 2 or 3 extra wins just based on the competition.
All right. So we'll wrap it up with just some final thoughts from me on a certain topic that I promised that we would discuss very briefly. And Chad knows what I'm talking about because all you Tua cultists out there who are worshiping the ground the man walks on, desperately wanting to see his number, desperately wanting to, you guys have already put Tua, who has not played a snap of NFL football, at the top of the jersey sales twice. Both his jerseys are some of the top, the aqua and the white are both top jersey sales in the NFL. Tua is the aqua one, I believe, is literally number 1 on top of Brady and Gronk and even Joe Burrow, who Burrow's actually going to play and Tua is not. So, and everything that Tua does is like an amazing experience, and we're just so happy to have him. Listen, I'm excited too. I'm not telling you not to be excited. But let's try to calm down a little bit, okay? Because you people are now starting to harass individuals. I'm going to go ahead and mention this. 5 Reasons Sports Network, they're selling Tua shirts, right?
Okay.
And people are raging at them. Where's my shirt? It's like, calm down. There's a pandemic going on. Maybe you haven't noticed. There's only so much we can do. It's like, stop cursing people out.
Yeah,
your precious Tua shirt has not shown up in the mail.
Highest profile player we've ever drafted, I would say. He's up in there. But I think it's all right. You're fans, you get to be excited. He's, it's hard not to watch his college tape.
Don't harass and antagonize people.
Oh no, obviously not on that. But I think for Tua, at least he's used to, he's coming into the number 1 college program in the country as a freshman in Alabama. So I think he's used to that mentality that this guy is the franchise. He's used to it. So I think that's a positive thing. But like I said, even like Marino and Elway and these guys, he's a rookie. And so I think you have to be careful. Like if you think Tua is going to step on the field and immediately do like what Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes did, I don't know. And Marino was on a very good veteran. Like they had just come off winning the Super Bowl, winning it, but in the Super Bowl like the year before he was drafted.
They 82. Still had some of the 72 team on that roster, didn't they?
Well, they had Kuchenberg, but they still had like 3 Pro Bowl offensive linemen. They had Dwight Stevenson, who's one of the best centers ever. And, they had the veterans like Nat Moore and Don Strock, and Marino had a very good team around him is the point I'm making. Yes, he had success as a rookie and went to the Super Bowl the next year, but that to me was the team, not just Marino himself.
It had to be because obviously Marino never got back there.
But I think just like everybody else, Tua's going to have to, make some mistakes. The game's fast. The game's way more complex, and he's going to have to learn it. And so, this Patrick Mahomes type stuff is freakish. He's been amazing, but to have that much success at that age, I don't expect Tua to be a top 2 or 3 quarterback the moment he steps on the field. I expect him to have a year or two of throwing some stupid passes that get picked off, taking some stupid sacks like all rookies do, and learning the game that way.
So that's my final point. It's just be happy, be excited, don't attack other people. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, yeah, it's like I like that, the cult of Tua, but yeah, he's popular. So I think it's almost in a sense it's in a way good that he has injury, because I think the majority of the fan and media understand that he's not going to play right away anyway, because they want him to heal as best as possible. Because wow, can you imagine if he were healthy, the demand? I could see people so crazy, if we won games with Ryan Fitzpatrick, still demanding that you play Tua. So yeah,
well, who's more exciting to watch, Tua or Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Well, of course, but
the Fitz magic is nothing compared to.
I think Tua is in a really good spot that he can spend a year watching Ryan Fitzpatrick, because you couldn't almost line him up with a better quarterback, because you kind of get tough, when you look at the Packers right now bringing in Jordan Love.
Aaron Rodgers is pissed, I'm sure.
Aaron Rodgers is pissed. Aaron Rodgers already has a reputation. He's kind of a jerk sometimes, and you look at it, and it's like Jordan Love's only played smaller college football. He didn't even play in the higher division games very often. And now he's got to come into the NFL where the learning curve and speed is going to be huge. And part of me is like, how accommodating do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to be for Jordan Love?
Not at all.
I don't know he's going to help him at all, or he's not going to be eager, because Aaron Rodgers probably wants to play 3 or 4 more years as a starter. He's not.
Aaron Rodgers has. Well, that's the thing. Aaron Rodgers, his entire NFL career, has not had a single first-round offensive player of any kind
skill
to
player,
be drafted
right?
and to be drafted for the Packers. And I'm like, and the first time they do it,
it's quarterback. But I'm just making the point that's going to be a harder dynamic for Jordan Love. And then I look at Joe Burrow, and I'm like, did they really just get rid of Andy Dalton and they just decided they're going to roll with Burrow and Finley? I mean, there is no veteran quarterback for Burrow to learn from at all.
And they're happy about it.
And they're going to put him out there on day one with a team that's not very good. Like I said, playing some really physical, good football teams. That to me, that's going to be tough sledding for him. Whereas I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's 38. Ryan Fitzpatrick's career is winding down, and he knows that. And I think Ryan Patrick completely fine to teach Tua everything he can. I'm going to teach you to be the best quarterback you can possibly be, and the moment you're ready, I'm ready for you to take the job. It's hard to get a situation where you get that quarterback. And Miami had that with Marino. I think with Don Strock, he was an older veteran quarterback. And he knew that he wasn't going to be the quarterback of the future, and he was fine with that. He'd been on the team a long time, and he was really good friends with Marino and did everything he could do to help him. And so I love that we have that pairing of putting a young superstar quarterback like Tua with a
veteran quarterback.
Yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's not worried about breaking statistical records right now.
And that's the difference between Fitzpatrick and Rodgers. Rodgers is also an older veteran quarterback, and he wants to probably kick Jordan Love's butt right now.
Well, it's not Jordan Love's fault, but
I know it's not.
Aaron Rodgers is not thinking, I'll probably retire in a year or two. I'll help Jordan Love take my spot. Aaron Rodgers is thinking, you're not getting my spot. That's what he's thinking right now.
Get out, boy! You bother me.
Yeah, I'm not going to help you that much. And so, and again, that's a quarterback that hasn't played a lot of high level, so he's got a huge learning curve in front of him for the Packers. So. But it's never fun for a quarterback when you draft those first-round picks, because they're expected to play, and you see it. Even Tom Brady had that with my mind's gone. Who's the quarterback? Garoppolo. I remember
Second
Tom Brady
rounder.
having a bad game, Garoppolo coming in and scoring like 21 points. They still lost, and the first thing the media asked is Tom Brady then is like 39 or something like that, and the media
It's like, is he
asking,
done? No.
is it time for Jimmy Garoppolo to take over for him?
And I think Belichick just like laughed. He literally just laughed at that question. It's like
he laughed,
and he didn't say anything else.
Aaron Rodgers has a bad game. I wonder what Jordan Love can do. He was a first-round pick. He's got all this talent. Should we put him in? The pressure is always there when you get a first-round quarterback drafted. And Aaron Rodgers knows this better than anybody. He was a first-round quarterback behind Brett Favre. And so it's interesting how history has repeated itself because now he's got the first-round quarterback sitting behind him.
But and I realize we've suddenly turned into the Packers brawl all of a sudden. But I'll end it with this. It's kind of strange because you said something very interesting. No one knows how this feels better than Aaron Rodgers. So you would think that based on how Brett Favre treated him when he showed up, that he would be more willing to like be the better guy. It's like, I'm not going to do what Brett did to me. Like, no, apparently not.
I don't think so.
I don't care.
I don't see it. And this is speculation based off what I read. I don't know Aaron Rodgers or follow the Packers at all. I just have heard he's not the easiest guy to get along with, Aaron Rodgers. And I think that's some credibility to it, which makes me wonder how accommodating he's going to be to a rookie. That's all.
So best of luck to you, Jordan Love. We've got Tua, and we're gonna enjoy watching him in about a year's time. So that's gonna be it, unless there's something else that we missed. Any closing thoughts?
No, I think that's all I got for you, and we'll hopefully. I did notice they're talking about Fox pumping fake crowd noise into broadcast, so I think that's the biggest thing I'm going to be watching is how this season's going to unfold in the environment we're in right now.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, because the Dolphins Stadium was built to base itself around the power of crowd noise, and now there's no crowd, so it's like, advantage gone.
True for everybody though, so it's not just for the Dolphins. So
no, it's true, but they built it around that.
Times the last few years, they'll be used to it. It'll be like a normal home game. It'll be quiet. I don't know. It'll be interesting how they do that. So
actually, it's going to be better than a normal home game because it's always filled with a bunch of wrong colored jerseys in the stands. It's like, oh my God, it's quiet. I like it.
One thing Tua is doing is changing that. He's selling tickets, selling jerseys.
True.
Yep.
Alrighty, so that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you all so much for joining us. So we'll see what happens next week and see what happens in the news. Maybe we'll have some signings to talk about. Maybe we'll have something else to talk about. So once again, thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you all next week. Good night.